Okay, before we're going to put the panels in, we're going to talk about the magnets. So with the magnets, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to line these upside down T's, call these the bogies. You want to make sure they're lined up with the track themselves. There's two sides of the magnet connectors. The bogies here, you can see there's one that's not pre-countersunk, there's one that's countersunk. Make sure the countersunk's facing the swing door jamb. Line them up. And then you're going to use a little bit of force between the two magnets and the fixed magnet connection with a flathead screwdriver. Once it's locked in, again, straightening out your magnets, push and slide away. You might want to be able to put some painter's tape around your flathead screwdriver just in case you feel not comfortable about the track. We're going to move these out of the way for now. And that's when you would drill your two screws into the pre-drilled holes here. Not too tight, not too loose. Remembering we've had one screw here, temporary, one screw over here, locking it in. So before I go ahead and put the main swing panel in, I'm going to lock in the two screw points where the magnets were sitting. Up here there is a pre-drilled hole here and pre-drilled hole here. There will be a pre-drill hole in each of the cutouts where the panels will spin. Now we have a screw holding the track in here, screw here, and now we have two here. The remaining screws we will do once all the panels are in. This amount of screws will be able to hold in the weight of the panels, remembering that the weight of the panels will always be on the bottom track. Here we have a main swing panel. There is no glass in these panels because it's easier to lift and to demonstrate the actual panel itself. There would be glass within the middle part with a bead and an interior and exterior bead clipped into position. When you receive your panels, you will have exactly the glass and the two beads. This is a main swing window panel. No handle on the exterior. Handle holes for the handle on the interior. Lock mechanism on the front face. Then you have the top swing block, main block, bottom swing block. This is your bottom reveal adjuster on your main panel. Jam aligners. And this is your restrictor bar. This main swing panel replicates a door panel. The only thing that would differ is the handle would have handle holes for the exterior handle, as well as interior holes for the interior side of the panel, back faceplate. This is a faceless window handle, which would be on the interior side, but if this was a main door, every component would be the same, just on a bigger scale of a panel. So firstly, we're going to take the restrictor bar off the main swing block. We're going to move that out of the way. Your main swing block will have two Allen wrench screws. You can remove that with a 3/16 Allen wrench, making sure you're not using a drill. A drill can cross thread the bolts, causing your block not to go all the way in or your bolts not to go all the way in. Once they are cross-threaded, you cannot uncross thread them. Remove the top block. Now we're going to lift up the panel into the system, into the pinhole. On the bottom of the panel, your bottom main swing block will have its pin, and your top block will have its pin. So with the panel, once you lift up the panel with two people, you're going to want to put the pin into the block here, while having a second person holding this panel, and then your main swing block will go into the top of the track, and you'll position it so they connect and in that way you can then put your bolts in and screw it. With the block up the top here, sometimes a small amount of pressure with a mallet, starting with the corner, onto the door. Once you've locked the block in from left to right, you can push or have the other person push. It should lock into place. Slide your Allen wrench bolts without a drill. Be careful of this top track, making sure you don't scratch the paint surface, and slowly screw. Nice and tight. If the block has trouble coming into the system, it's because you've shimmed too much here and here, pushing down, not allowing the block to go in. So take your time, pull it together, and then apply the second bolt in and screw. Slowly screw the bolt into the top block, nice and tight on both bolts. Now for the restrictor bar. You want to loosen the screw with the rivet. Apply the restrictor bar. Thread the screw through the restrictor bar. Tighten up. Restrictor bar is now secure. Opening the door, you'll hear a click and an unclick. Click, just over a 90-degree angle, and an unclick. That's how you apply the main swing panel. Before we put in the sliding panels and the keep panel, we're going to have to separate the magnets again using a flathead screwdriver. Find the line, again apply some pressure, separate, and then move into position. You're going to have your bottom guides, and then line them up, ready for the panel. So there's 3 different types of panels. We'll have a main swing panel, a keep panel, and a sliding panel. The sliding panel will be exactly the same as the keep panel. The only difference with the keep panel would be that it has the keeps. On a sliding panel, we will have main swing. So we have a sliding top block, pivot block as we like to call it. This would be called a pivot block. You'll see the 2 Allen bolts in here. On the bottom is a bottom pivot block. This will be the one with the hole placement in it, with our 2 wheels. We have a non-pivot block, bottom pivot block, non-pivot side. This will have no holes in it. And then on this side, we're going to have the finger pull mechanism. As you can see up here, the finger pull release on the sliding panel. Our gaskets will be installed after the panel is installed. To install the panel, you're going to lift it up into the track itself, making sure you are lined up perfectly in the track. Make sure this side's locked in. Have someone supporting this side. I like to make sure that it's outside of the track itself, lifting the corner up, and then applying the pin, which is in the guide, into the bottom pivot block, aligning it, sliding it inside. You'll see that I can clip it into position with the finger pull locking into place, and the panel can slide freely with the guide. Make sure that that guide is inside of that pivot block. This non-side pivot is inside of the track. If I was to release the finger pull mechanism, the panel would fall out. So make sure that this is locked in, nice and tight and nice and secure. And now we're ready to place in the top bogie into the panel. And how we do that is we remove the bolts We're going to slide the bogey into the panel itself here, making sure it lines up. There is a spring inside of the bogey to the magnet, so you're able to just pull that down with the finger and then screw your bolt into place and then hand tighten. And then repeat the step for the second bolt. Nice hand tight. And then we can check, make sure the panel slides nice. And then we'll repeat this process with the keep panel. Make sure you are aware of what the keep panel is. The keep panel will come with keeps. This is where the main door will lock into. So we'll repeat the process by installing the panel. Nice and firm. Pull your guide, undo your finger pull mechanism, lock the panel in. If you would like to slide it up to the next panel to lock it into place while you're screwing that panel for a bit more safety. And then remove the blocks and then repeat the process. This process is repeated on door systems, window systems, storm door systems. Every sliding panel will be screwed in the same way. And then hand tighten the last screw. And now your panels should freely slide within the track itself. Making sure that when you do slide, you slide all the way to the end. You're going to feel the bottom of the panel hit the bottom stop guide, and then you can be able to push it, and it's going to click up into place. Once it clicks up into place, it's still going to be locked in. Pull your finger pull down, which will allow the panel to swing open. And that will repeat the process for each panel after. Slide, click up, and open. Double checking it when you do close it, bringing the finger pull down, lock into place, and then slide. Finger pull down right before the track opens, lock into place, and then slide. You do want to make sure you check to make sure that there's enough room. Again, the 1/2 inch either side, you're going to need to cushion your jambs in, which we'll do momentarily, but you can bring your panels together. Make sure everything looks nice with the reveals. Remember, we are going to be applying gaskets here in a second, but you can just see from top to bottom that everything lines up correctly. This jam is off, so we'll be resetting this jam just because it's set to the opening. And then the gaskets over here will set this jam shortly. So what we want to do now is we want to open the panels so that we can apply the gaskets. The gaskets will come in its own individual box. They might be pre-cut a little bit long, so a pair of shears or snips are necessary. We're going to apply the gaskets with the angled gasket facing like the jam, pointing inwards, and then do the same on the interior side. You just want to take your time pushing in. You can use the roller that is provided. Just a small amount of pressure does it. Make sure that you push it together so it's not cut short when you do cut it. Not too much that it ripples, and then do the same on the interior side. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then with the snips, you can trim off any excess. There's no glue needed. Nice and flush. Repeat the process on the bottom. And it should look exactly like that on all panels on the male side where the finger pull mechanism goes. And then repeat the process on each individual panel next. Again with the angled gasket. Matching the swing door jamb. So with the keep panel, the panel that will be interlocked with the main swing panel, this panel would have the keeps on it. These are the keeps. Your angle gasket will be on the interior side. There'll already be a piece of gasket on the panel itself. If this isn't already pre-installed, you're going to want to match it to the opposite side, having the angle so that the main swing panel will brush up and lip into it. Again, you can use the roller or apply a small amount of pressure, making sure the gasket is fully installed. And with this one, you want to take a small measurement. Cut to necessary size, and we should be able to just interlock with the gaskets. So now we're going to work on the installation of the handle. Again, this is a window handle. There'll be no exterior handle, only an interior handle. This is our window handle, just so you can see what it's going to look like. If this was a door, there'd be holes on this side of the door system, holes on the interior side, and then you'd have two face plates with your handle. But today we're going to be working on our window handle. You're going to need to pre-drill your holes yourself. This is a 5/32 drill bit. So you can line your handle up into the positions of the screw points. Take your drill, and then make sure you're very careful drilling through the system itself. And then follow through. Once you finish drilling, line your handle up, making sure it goes through the lock mechanism with a test. And then with the 2 stainless steel screws provided, slide in the screw, and tight. Now we have our handle. We're ready to set our side jambs. So with our floating jambs, we're going to set both sides, removing the screw as we screwed in before. Take out the screw from this side, and also the screw in the main swing panel. Main swing jamb located down here. Now what we want to do is we want to close the window system up. And we want to make sure that we have a nice firm seal on the interior side, lifting the handle up to engage the handle, a nice sealed lock. Taking our pry bar, we're going to slide all the panels firmly into each other, and then we're going to make sure that we can slip behind the jamb and then prying that jamb to the sliding panel. Not too much pressure, making sure that we allow for twist. So the jamb is straight. You might need to bend out the weather stripping, but a nice seal on the system itself. And then moving back to the main swing panel, we're then going to open so it's not too tight. You gotta remember that you've got to allow for expansion and contraction. So when these doors are in the heat, they're going to expand. If they're in the cold weather, they're going to shrink down. So always make sure before you screw your jamb in that it's not too tight and there's no rubbing. So once you're happy with the placement and it locks firm, we can go ahead taking our shims. If at this point you have a bigger gap where your opening's off, if you would like to further it in, it's up to you. We're just going to use some shims going by the screw position where we had our pilot hole. Nice tight seal. And again, up top. Not too much shim because it's going to press over to the panels, causing this to rub. But then we want to take our 2 screws again, slowly pulling the panel away from the jamb, keeping the shims in place. Remove the panels and then proceed to screw through the shims or above and below them. Nice and tight. Making sure the panel locks into place. And then going and checking your main swing panel. Nice and free, nice compression. And then we're going to set our main swing panel. The main swing panel is exactly the same as the sliding panel when it comes to setting. You're going to have already the screw removed, have your pry bar behind the jamb, compression, compression. And we really want to make sure that it's not too tight on the interior side and it's not too tight on the exterior side, because you've got to allow for the panel to move. If you do have it too tight and you shim it overly too tight, what's going to happen is there's going to be a loud popping noise. So make sure you are testing out the system itself. So again, we're going to slide our shims nice and firm in here. And again on the top. Not too much. Open slowly. And then take our screws, slide through. And then double check with your panel. Nice firm, making sure the gaskets are not pinching. No popping. And then the panels should slide open freely. Just another test run. And then locking into place. Nice firm push on the panels, making sure they're locked together. Slowly bring the main swing panel in so you're not rubbing, and then lift the handle up. Final step on our jambs is we're going to open up the system on this sliding side, and the 4 screws we took out earlier on either side. So you should have 8 altogether on our jam connectors, the one we put aside earlier. We're now going to drill these guys back into the jam connectors and back into the jam itself. Once the jams are set, you can screw these guys back into play. And then repeat the process on the main side door. One more check on the main swing panel. Should lock all the way up for the handle. With the door handle, you'd have your faceplate and your handle on the exterior. Interior side, same thing, faceplate handle. You would lift the handle up, which will engage the lock mechanism itself. There would be one on the bottom, one on the top. These are hook engagements. There'll also be one on the top of the panel that locks into the top track. Once the handle is directly all the way up, you'll have your thumb turn, and then you'll be able to lock your door system. With the window system, as there is no handle on the exterior, there's no thumb turn needed. You would just open and close your door handle freely. So our last and final step is then screwing the top track into local position. This is going to finish off your panoramic door installation. What I like to do is I like to open up the whole system. Where we've already screwed our positioning here, we can open the door system, swing them all the way out. And now we've got a remaining pilot screws that need to be screwed into place. Again, it might look like it's not set to the opening, but the height of the opening was low here and high here, and it's all spread out. So don't go by what the opening looks like, go with what the door sits into. That's why we asked for the RO to be bigger, so that stuff like this is able to happen. So to finish off the installation, you're going to take your tape measure, and you're going to go as close to the jam as you can, going from the bottom track all the way up to the top track, taking a steady measurement, and then you want to replicate that same measurement for each pilot hole, top to bottom. And you're going to just go along, making sure that each screw position is exactly the same, all the way from left to right and right to left. If you do not use the tape measure, what happens is you can tend to kind of get carried away with the screw, lifting up the top track, and then you'll have a high reveal. So it's good to use the tape measure. to make sure that you have an even reveal. Another way that you can use the panel itself, sliding the panel, checking the reveal the whole way from left to right, so that you can align the panel, making sure that the panel itself matches the reveal on the system. Once all the screws are done, you can close up the door system, make sure everything's happy and checked, and that should complete your panoramic door installation.